Hello guys, this is part 99 of ASP.NET video series. This is continuation to part 98. If you have not watched that, I would strongly encourage you to do so. In this video session, we will discuss about implementing enable button to unlock user accounts. So, what we need to do? There are two changes that we need to make to this grid view control in order to implement the enable button. The first thing is obviously when we run this project at the moment when I click this, I mean to say if I run this project, okay, it is redirecting me to login page. So what I need to do here, I set this page as startup page. Okay, now I'll run it. So when we done this project at the moment, okay, again it is showing me this. So what I need to do, I need to go to the logging. So I need to logging as text. So I'll type here TE test, and what would be our okay, login. Okay, so first thing is obviously when we run this project at the moment when I click this enable button, nothing happens. Okay, nothing happens. Okay, so we want to generate the event handler for this enable button. Okay, so how do we generate the event handler? Now right click on grid view control, means if we close it, no, don't close it. So right click on the view control, go to the property, and select here. Okay, now click at the I am telling you what you need to do. Click on the event icon. Here you need to click it, and then click, and then there is a row command event. So where is the row command event? You can see here, this one, row command event. Okay, so double click at here, So we have this, row command event handler generated. Now all I am doing here is I am going to say response.write. Okay. Button clicked means I specify a button click. Okay, so now if I go ahead and run this, as you might expect, when I click the button control, means we go back to here and refresh it. So I need to again run it. So we will again direct it to login page. So we need to log in again. What was your password? Okay. So now if I go ahead and if I click this button control, let's see what does happen. So here we get button clicked. So if I click any one of these two button control, here we get that message. Here we get that message, button clicked. And I click it again, and I click it again. I get that message, button clicked. But what we basically want to do is when I click this enable button, we want to enable or unlock that user account. Okay. What we basically want to do is when I click this enable button, we want to enable or unlock that user account. Okay, that user account should be unlocked if I click these button, any one of these buttons. So obviously first we need a stored procedure. So go back to your, so we need a stored procedure. Here is the stored procedure. Which we can call to unlock that user account. So to unlock an user account, obviously we need to pass in the name of the username. Okay, that we want to unlock. So let's create that stored procedure, and it is going to be simple update. It is going to be a simple update. It's going to be simple update statement. So I have a started I have a stored procedure. Here it is, the stored procedure. SP enable user account. and it is taking an input parameter. It is taking an input parameter username at the rate username. So which user accounts you want to unlock. So which user account you want to unlock, that is going to come in as an input parameter. In as an input parameter here. Okay. And then update TBL users table. And then update TBL user tables. Set look at that. Set look at that. This is the table that we want to update. This is the table we want to update. What do we want to do for a logged account? For a logged account is logged. For a logged account is logged will be 1. For a logged account is logged will be 1. There you can see. Retry attempts will be the maximum. Retry attempt for them will be the maximum. 4 attempts. Okay, as you can see here. That are allowed in our case. It was 4 attempts. And then there will be a logged date time, and you can see here log date time. So basically what we are doing is setting retry attempt to 0. Setting retry attempt to 0, is log to null, and then log date time is equal to null. Where username is equal to where username is equal to whatever username that we pass into the stored procedure. So when I click this button, button control, okay, for this row. So when I click this button, okay, for this row, what is the username? That is the what is the username? This is the username. Sara is the username. So I want to unlock Sara's account, Sara's user account. So I want to unlock the Sara's user account. So on click of this button, I want to retrieve that username. And send it to the stored procedure. Stored procedure, so that it can issue an update statement and unlock that account, Sara's account. So all that is left out now is to call that stored procedure on the click of this button control. And the most important thing is to retrieve that username. And the most important thing to retrieve that username and pass it to the stored procedure. So let's see how to do that. Okay, let's see how to do that. Now at the moment all we have to do is button clicked. Now how do I get, means close it right now. So now how do I get, you know, one trick, you know, access to that username? Access to that username means the username. Which one username? Okay, I have to go to. Okay, I have closed the stop the project running, a running project. Okay, so we uh, uh, so now how do I get, you know, access to that username means Sara name? You know, one trick which is very simple to follow is if you look at this means go to the means look at this look at this logged access dot axpx logged account dot axpx dot html file. This button control has got another property called command argument. Okay, so what we need to do, I'm going to my notepad and wants to copy the okay, there it is, command argument. Okay, so go back to your Visual Studio. Here you can see and paste it here. Okay, so this button control has another property called command argument. So command argument, now I am going to specify the command argument using data binder. Data binder syntax, that is EVL, data binder syntax EVL method. So I'm going to use this EVL method. Here command argument is equal to, I'm going to use that angular bracket. This is the angular bracket, percentage hash syntax, the data binder EVL, the data binder EVAL syntax, and I am going to specify EVL. And if you remember, when we actually get this data from where, here this data. Okay, I'm talking about this data, hours elapsed. Okay, so if you remember, when we actually get this data, we are also getting the username. Username. Okay, so if you look at, you know, the data that is displayed here. Okay, once again I want to run this because I want to make you understand it. So if you look at, you know, the data that is displayed here, we are also retrieving username. from the database. What I am going to do is I am going to set the command argument of this button, command argument of this button control as that column username. As that column username. Okay. So we have set it as column username. So now the command argument attribute of the button control that is rendered within every row, that is rendered within every rows of this grid view control is set to the username. Is set to the username here. Now in the code behind file, I can use the command argument property. So how do I get access to the command argument property of that button control? Now look at this, event handler. Now you can see, now look at this, event handler here. We have this E here, grid view command argument args. So I can make use of that object. So copy it and delete this. I can make use of that object that is coming in grid view command event args. So E dot look at that command argument. Okay, this one, and look at the return type. Of that. It is an object. But we know username is a string. So I am going to convert that to a string. And now let's go ahead and means what we need to do here. So convert it to string. Okay. What is happened to it? E dot. Okay, now it is. So once again we have to do what? So we need to close this and again save the changes and run it. It will redirecting to login page as a form of authentication. So test Nadione. Okay, and run this change, save the changes, and we have saved the changes, and see what is going to happen when I click the enable button. If I click this enable button, then you will see the change. We get the Jerry name here. Okay, I get the Jerry, and when I click against Sarah, when I click against the Sarah's account, look at that, I get Sarah. So the task of getting the username is done. All that is left out right now is all that is left out right now is on the click of this every button control. On the click of this every button control, we want to invoke the stored procedure. And pass this username username here that we have retrieved to that stored procedure. Means once again I am telling the process. Now on the click of this every button, click on this every button, we want to invoke the stored procedure. And pass this username that we have retrieved to that stored procedure. So to retrieve the stored procedure, all you need to do is write simple edu.net code. So you need to write a simple edu.net code. So just to save some time and typing, I am going to copy this edu.net code that I have already written in the previous sessions. Means if I copy and paste it here, this is the edu.net code. So this is the previous code which we have written in the previous session. So I have copied this code from here. Okay, I am going to call this method private void maybe let's call enable user account. Whatever is enable user accounts or unlock user accounts, whatever is most appropriate. Oops, sometimes it does happen. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste this code. So I am going to paste the copied code here. So that read the connection strings as usual. That read the connection strings from web.config file. Create the connection object. This is the SQL connection object, and command specify the SQL command. Command specify the SQL command. In our case, specify the SQL command. In our case, the stored procedure is going to be sp enable user account. Sp enable user account. Let me go to notepad. From here you will see, yeah, okay. So copy it and paste it here. And if you look at the stored procedure, here we have the same. Okay. So that is the name of the stored procedure, and since it is a stored procedure, we are setting the command type. We are setting the command type here as stored procedure. Command type as stored procedure. And if you look at this stored procedure, it is expecting a SQL parameter. It is expecting a SQL parameter. So we need to create a SQL parameter object. So let's go ahead and create the SQL. Let's create the SQL parameter. Means here we need to specify the SQL parameter. Let's call that parameter username. Parameter user name. Parameter username is equal to new SQL parameter. Is equal to new SQL parameter. And then we need to specify the parameter name. And then we need to specify the parameter name. So parameter name. So what is the name of the parameter? At username. At username, but in the inverted commas. And we also need to specify the value, and we also need to specify the value for that username. uh, Here, for that username. Okay, so where so so where is the value coming from? The value is coming from this grid view control, from this grid view control. Okay, from this grid view control, from here you can see this, and we do not have access to grid view command event args object within the method, and we do not have the access to grid view command event args object within the this method. Okay, so what is I am going to do? I am going to pass in a parameter. Okay, I am going to pass in a parameter. I am going to say string username. Okay, string username. To access the grid view command event args object, so that is why I pass this string username parameter, and I will invoke this method, event handler. Within this event handler, I will invoke this method, means this method enable user accounts within this event handler. So I can pass this e dot command argument to that function. Okay, so for now I am just saying username, so here first of all we need to is equal to username, okay, as the value, username as the value, and we need to associate this parameter with the command object. And how do we do that? Command dot parameter dot add. Command dot parameters dot add. Okay, we want to add the parameter object, parameter username. Add the we want to add the parameter object, parameter username. That's it. We open the connection. We open the connection and we execute. Now another important thing. Important thing. If you look at the stored procedure, what is it doing? What is it doing? What is it doing? It is only updating. It is only updating. It is not returning any data. So it is a non-query. So command dot execute non-query. Okay. So go back to the Visual Studio. Command dot execute non-query. Okay, and we don't want to do any sort of data binding, and we don't want to do any sort of data binding. So here, that's it. And finally the connection gets automatically closed because we are using the using block, here. That's it. Enable user account. So what we need to do now, within this event handler, I'm going to call that method enable user account. So enable user account. So let me copy it. And we need to pass in the username, and where I am getting username from this command argument property. So let me copy it. And paste it here. That's it. We call that method. That should enable the user account. So we call this method that should enable the user account. After we enable the user account, we need to reload the data. Otherwise, we will still be looking at the old data. So I can just invoke this get data method, that get data function that we have written in the previous session of this video series. So get data. So get data. Okay. So these are the changes that we need to do. So very simple, implement the enable button. All we have done so far is within the AXPX, in this AXPX of this page, we have specified the command argument, because we need the username, to update the user account that is logged. Okay, and we are getting that using this data binder .evl data binder method. And then once we have the username, we are then invoking stored procedure. We are invoking the stored procedure. Where is the stored procedure? Here it is. SP enable user account, passing in that username. Okay, and how we are getting access to that username? Using this grid view command event args object. Okay, means how are we getting access to that username? Using this grid view command event args object. So this object has a property called command argument. We are retrieving property value, whatever we have set here, in the code behind file, and passing it to this function, enable user accounts, which will invoke the stored procedure, pass the same username and the stored procedure, will update the database. Let's see how it works now. Okay, let me go ahead and run this now. So when the web page loads up, so let me close the previous one browser. Again, we need to run it, save the changes. and run. So need to pass the password. Okay. So when the web page loads up, look at that. I have this enable button, and let's look at the data at the moment. So if you look at the table users, means here, if you look at the table users, all four accounts are basically logged. All four accounts are basically logged. If I also run it here from this, let's go ahead and update one of the row. So I'm going to enable, first I show you this from here. So all the four accounts are logged, basically logged. As you can see here. So I'm going to enable Jerry's row. So I'm going to enable Jerry's rows. So if you look at Jerry's row, Jerry's row, where is the Jerry? Here. Jerry's account retry attempt 4 is logged 1, and that is the date and time, that is logged. So I am going to enable that, and the moment I do that, look at that, it is updated. Means if I go to the browser and click the Jerry's account, okay, so the moment I do that, look at that, it is updated. So let's go back and check. So let's go back and check. Look at the Jerry account is now enabled. Means if I execute this query, Jerry account is now enabled. Jerry can go ahead and use this username and password, and now logging to the system. Similarly, I can go ahead and enable Sarah's account. So go back to the browser. If I enable this Sarah's account, okay, but look at this, I cannot enable Tom's and Pam's account because 24 hour is not yet passed. 24 hour is not yet passed. Since the account is locked. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Okay. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.